So for any of you who have watched any of my videos that I've done previously about SketchUp and moving models from SketchUp to Unreal Engine to be able to have the close to photorealism, especially in Unreal Engine at the moment, they're moving their program to be more also focused on architectural visualization. So there's that real experience, the VR, the realism that they're getting in there. What Enscape has done, and that's the program I want to just highlight briefly, and I'm not going to go into any specifics. I'm going to give you a overview of it so that you can have probably the experience that I had when I looked at it and I went like, wow, this thing has incredible potential. And I was used to taking the models from SketchUp to Unreal Engine and having to then convert the materials. Then it came Datasmith, which did the seamless transfer across to Unreal from SketchUp, and that made life so much easier. However, being introduced, I shouldn't say being introduced because I saw Enscape a while back, it wasn't just at its form that it is now. It's now starting to mature. It's like bringing all the power of Unreal Engine that I require. Now remember, not everybody does the type of work I do. My work is primarily on concept, visual concept. So in a case like this, I don't do architectural visualization necessarily. I go, for example, some client would come and say they want to present to their client what their office would look like if they renovated it, and they put in this brick wall here, this brick wall, this paving, and they want to do this for a promotion that they have. So I would then create a quick turnaround time model, getting close as I can to a bit of photorealism, but also giving them the experience of what it would look like. So they can do a lot of iterations about, changing this, doing that, and that sort of thing. So for me, Enscape brings that power to the system. If I want to render one frame and spend 3 hours rendering it with path tracing to its umpteenth degree, then probably, you're going to stick around with things like your V-rays and your Arnolds and all that sort of stuff. I pretty much would take it into my software of choice, my CAD of choice that I use outside of SketchUp, which is Cinema 4D, and there I would exclusively work with Octane. Octane is brilliant in Cinema 4D. It looks like Enscape and SketchUp is like a hand in glove. For me, Cinema 4D and Octane just fits together the same way. Okay, so enough chat about why I'm at this particular space. I'm going to just show you a few things and maybe you can see the power of it. Now, to give you an idea, what I've done is I've just done a few of these circles. Inside I put a material, this rim is a material, and then I've copied them all over. And these are lights from the Enscape system. So I've just put in a light. I haven't added any power to them or anything, added IES parameters to them or anything. They're standard. This is one of the models that I'm busy making, and these 1, 2, 3, 4 models are ones that I'm producing for SketchUp and Enscape. So there's a library that I'm making that I'll make available for access to people, and I'll announce that on the YouTube channel sometime. But if you are sitting with a model like this and you've got to present this to a client, you're going to say, okay, this is what it looks like. Now, if I just switch Enscape on, I haven't added anything to the model except just switching Enscape on. This is what you'll probably see, and this is nowhere near where the end product is, but let me just show you. I'm switching Enscape on, and Enscape can come as it's a pop-up screen. Let's just wait there. So it loads it into, it works through this graphics card, so it loads it into the system. I'm working on a laptop at the moment, and it's not heavy burdensome on graphics cards. It might warn you that it needs a little bit more power if your model gets big. But we'll deal with explaining how to sort that out at a later stage. Okay, so here we are. This now currently is like a very overexposed image. But pretty much if you look at this, just clicking a normal SketchUp model, you're seeing something happen here that is kind of a bit different to what the SketchUp model is. Now, my method of preferring to work at one stage is full screen like this and full screen SketchUp, and I move Alt Tab between the two. So if I go Alt Tab, I get to this one. I do that, and then there's one phase where I start adding materials and their properties. I'll move them side by side. And if you have two screens, you can have one on the other screen. So I'm going to just click H here so I can hide this dialog for now. So in this case here, I think it's all these lights that are a bit overexposed. So I'm going to just do a few primary settings. I'm going to go to the Enscape panel. I just want to see that auto exposure switched off because I don't like things to be doing their lighting adjustment for me. But I know that these lights are probably where the problem lies, so I'm going to just check the lights. I'm going to drop each of these lights down to okay, now here comes where I'm trying to do adjustments and not seeing it. Let me use the power of the program. So I'm going to take this and drag it off to the side, and so they're filling half here. Okay, so it's easier for me now to pull this down and see where my issue is lying. Okay, it doesn't seem too much with the light because all these lights are connected. I just duplicated them, so the one adjustment will work for all of them. There's some other feature that is a bit overexposed here. Let me see this. I'm going to click this. I'm going to drop the exposure. There we go. Okay, so generally the exposure button had defaulted on a particular spot. Now I want you to look at that and tell me that that is not incredible, going from this to this without touching anything along the way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you briefly how you add properties to these materials. Go through them, add a few properties to them, and you'll see the impact that it has on the model. Lighting and materials, the textures you use, are the two things that create the closest to photorealism. Just a key point here I want to share with you before we even go ahead is that some people, when they are working, let me open this to full screen, and they open up the Enscape window. It comes here. As soon as they click onto SketchUp, it disappears. So it doesn't stick on top. For that, I did a video where you can see it, but pretty much you can go and download a program. It's free for Windows called Deskpin, and that creates a little pin that you stick onto the screen that you want to have stay on top, and it will stay there. So let me just show you this for now. If I go there, I go to Deskpin, right click, say enter pin. If I click here, then this, I'm going to just size this, will stay on top. Just move that there. So if I move in this window here, you'll see this window will stay on top. But the other thing, do you notice the speed at which this is actually rendering here? Now, I mean, if you have a client and the client wants to see what it will look like, okay, the layout of the lights, the sizing and everything is wonky here, but this is practically what you can show the client. And if the client says, okay, I want you to change this chair here, I want you to make this chair a different color. It's as easy as going to change it, and they'll be able to see what happens in there. But I'll get to that now. How does Enscape know what to do with the materials in SketchUp? Does it have an artificial intelligence? Pretty much you've got to tell it either in the material editor. So how you get to select the material, you click B for paint bucket. Okay, and this dialog pops up. If it's in the way, you can click the spin and it will auto hide. So when you need it, you can pull it out there and so forth. But in this case here now, I'm going to click B for bucket and Alt so I can make the selection to tell Enscape which material I've selected. So I'm going to select this material and I'm going to go over here, and it says it's wood dark floor. But it doesn't know what properties it needs to give. Is it a kind of a plasticky thing? Is it a metal? What type of property? So Enscape has two ways of telling the program what type of property this material has. One, which is a generic one, which you just give it a key name and it adds a generic property to it. And the other is the actual material editor, which I'll open also, and that gives you the ability to fiddle around with roughness maps, with bump maps, with coloring, texturing, all that sort of stuff. That's the deeper level of going with it, which I'll spend some time sharing that later, but I'll give you the kind of high level thing now. So if we look at this here, I'm going to say, let's make this If we make it plastic, it will have a slight shine. I'm going to say let's make it a ceramic, which has a higher shine, so we can see effect. Okay, so I can just use the word ceramic, and there we go. Okay, I'm going to open this full screen so you can see. So can you see that gloss over there? Let me just pull it to an area where we could probably see it a little bit more. Okay, the lighting is way out of sync here, but if you can see the reflectivity here on the area. Now, if you're in this area and you want to move to where the scenes are with SketchUp, you can't actually access it from here. You've got to go out again. But they've given you a brilliant tool that you can go in. Let's just move this here. Oh, this thing is pinned. I'm going to just switch the pin off so I can skip to that one. There is a tool that you can use to set that correct. Let me just get back to this window and let's just see where we are at. If I go to this here, this area, Manage Views, click on that. This says, do you want to capture this scene? You say yes, mark it as favorite, this one and this one. So if you now go back here to the render view, if you show here, you could actually navigate through the scenes themselves. At the moment, you aren't able to edit the materials in this render view, but I'm sure with the next few releases, they'll do that. So I'll have to go back to this view. I'm going to show you now if I wanted to add this property of this wood must be, also I'll say it's that ceramic property. So if I click Alt and I click here, it says plastic because we've set it as plastic. This top one, let's see what we've set it as glass. So if you use these keywords on here, whatever we said it is, fabric. So if you use keywords like fabric, glass, and on the site, the website, they have all these keywords, you'd be able to get these basic settings going for you. If I go on over here, let me see what on this brick. I'll say let's call it a plastic. Okay, and on this side wall, also just call it plastic. Okay, I'm going to pin this back here because I'll just call it plastic here. Okay, so what it's done is I've given in the name. It can be at the start, at the end, in the middle. If I use a term like plastic or ceramic or chrome or metal or polished, it will take on a set fixed value. So now I've done that. If I shift back here, immediately it's added those properties to this material. Okay, so if I want to now go and edit a bit deeper, this is where the power lies. And this is where I'm going to be shifting the two screens next to each other. Let me just pull that there and that one there. Okay, so if I want to add properties here now, I'll select it and open up the material editor. Without getting into too much depth, if you're used to working with physically based materials, like when you create a bump map and then a texture map, and then you load them into the system, here you can do that also. Click on the plus, load in a bump map, so you can create the materials outside, bring them in here, or you can go the shortcut of clicking on the albedo channel here, and it will use whatever albedo image you're using and create a bump map for you. Because look, if I click here, see what happens on top. It creates a bump map, and then I can put the settings that I'm looking for in whichever way. Okay, but I don't want to use that at this point. Let me show you. I'm on that gray chair now. Let me show you the power of this. If it's got a texture on it, I can modify it. Yeah, I'm going to say the image fade. I want the color to change. I'm going to change that to a wine color, and I can drop it down there and we could get it. Let me just zoom in here. Okay, I've literally changed this chair from a white chair to a wine color chair. I could even go and change it to a purple chair. Oh no, that's almost close to that color. Let me do a more radical color, green. There we've got it. So can you see the power here in that you can take an existing texture and change the color to whatever you want to, and you can blend it according to how much of that original color you want, or you want it very green or so forth. This is giving you another level of editing, and all it's doing is pulling a slider, choosing a color. Now to get this affected, for example, in Unreal Engine, you've got to create a node. You've then got to go open the texture, change the color, blend it to get a blend node, and it becomes that sort of intricate. Whereas here you want to sit and you want to get this feeling of the color, and that's pretty much how you get to do it. Okay, there's lots of other features, but let me just go to this wall at the back here. It's got bricks, but it looks very flat. That possibly would need a bit of a bump map in there. So we select that, we make sure we have the material, and now we say, okay, let's create a bump map for that albedo. And if I do this, okay, it's probably the quality of the image is not that excessively good, but in this case here, you're seeing that you can alter what that map is all about. You can create a bit of distortion in that map using the setup with the bump map. Okay, so in this case, this bump map is not going to do you too much justice. Maybe you'll create it outside in a third-party program and then pull that in there. Maybe the bump map itself is not the greatest quality because of the poor quality of the actual texture that's been used. Because remember, SketchUp by default uses very poor textures, or you could set it in SketchUp to bring in a higher resolution while there's a setting over there. But for now, just to show you that you do create the bump map, if I want to alter the roughness on there, get it a bit more shiny. So let's just do that on this other low quality one also. Just create a bump map, and okay, so it's there, or it's nothing, or we pull it through to be something quite strange. But the point I get to is we are creating on the fly a bump map that we are able to bring in. Okay, so I'm going to just move this back here. Let's get to a more visible scene. In the same principle, we have this as in this case, it's a reddish color. It looks orange here, but it's a reddish texture that was actually designed. If I click on here, let's just open the material editor. If I want to change this one now, I get told, listen here, I want this one as red, but this one I want to match as green. It's as simple as going into that space. Where have I selected those areas? Okay, these textures are all matched here together. So when I change this, it's going to change this other model. So I've got to make that a unique model. But let's just assume we're on the same page with creating a texture that's unique there. And then I want to create a bit of a nice little shine, a bit of specular highlight on that. Can you see how it's happening there real time? It is incredible. Really exciting. Okay, so I'm going to just go in and select one of these lights and do a bit of edit on them. Let's see if I've got... Okay, there I've got the light. So what I'm going to load in this light is a IES profile. For those of you who don't know what IES profiles are, they are actual profiles of how light would be spread by a specific manufacturer. So a certain type of globe would have a certain spread. So all you're doing is creating the most realistic spread of light using the manufacturer's own patterns. So it will have kind of different patterns. I'm going to use this comet one here and put that in there, and then just pump up the lighting. The only thing is you can't see much of the lighting here because there's a bright daylight. This is the other incredible thing that you can do is keep shift down, the right mouse button, click, and you drag across the screen. It will move time of day across. And if you look at the bottom right corner, you'll see it will tell you there it's like going for down to 11 o'clock in the morning. That's the sun is up. I'm going to just take it back, and this is probably early in the morning. That's an early morning time, about 7 a.m. where you get this kind of light. Now I can move away from the model to show you what the scenery looks outside, but I'm trying to focus on getting the light way down so it's quite dark. Okay, so now we're into late at night and it's dark. And with this kind of lighting setup, that's what we have. Okay, so if I go and I pop up the brightness of these lights, remember all these lights in my example are all linked. So when I pop up the power, intensity of the light, that's doing it to all of them. Okay, so I will just go and do it full screen and then pop out these areas so you can see it a bit better. We can zoom out and zoom in. Let's just see what we have here. Okay. Okay, just for purposes, if you look at this wall here, like I said, this is poor textures, but can you see it's creating almost a displacement of these things? So it looks like it's a rocky surface. The bump map is doing something different. Also on this wall, it's not anymore that flat. And as you can see here, the beautiful reflections with these areas. If I move the light around to morning, I'm going to take it down right across to nighttime. There we have a model. Now this is happening all in real time. I'm busy screen recording. I have this thing running on my laptop only, and look at this mood that we're getting. Light coming down there from IES lights falling down there. You're getting the bump map doing its thing there. I am extremely impressed with. Look at the reflection here. We've added properties onto the floor. And if you spend time doing proper lighting, proper texturing, you can hit incredible qualities. Photorealism is within your grasp. And this is just a click away. Literally, this is what we're doing. We're pretty much coming to a SketchUp model and doing a few alterations along the way. So if I want to change this to be a different color, I can go ahead and change this to be a different color. Going right from the left to the right of the tags here. So this one here is to run a render, that window that was open. This is to refresh. This is to synchronize the two windows. When you move in SketchUp, it moves in that window also in real time. This is to take a screen grab. That's to click one button and to give the user an ability to plug in something like an Oculus Rift headset and virtually move through the model. This is literally one click. There's no programming or anything to do that. You need to have, of course, the computer here and have the headset plugged in. This area here is to create all the lighting. And also you have the ability here, if you, for example, these models were very heavy, you could remove them from here, keep them in another folder, and just link the models. It would put proxies down here and take the weight of these models out of your SketchUp models so it doesn't weigh it down. So you can build hundreds of the proxies in here and it would be seamless. It only shows up in the rendered window and not in your model as normal proxies would work. Okay. This is a new feature that they added in 2.4. It's an asset library. This brings in proxies also, but it's for quick things. You can't really edit those models. Like these models, you can still edit them because they're fully fledged models. These assets are just assistant proxies. So if you want to put a computer, let me show you maybe. This will help. If I click on there and I'm going to just get a desktop computer and put it over there, and you can see what it does. So in this case, you'll go computer. I'll put it down. Let's put it there and press escape. I just want one copy. Let me just go to it. I'm going to let it face this way for purposes of you seeing what the screen looks like. So this is just a proxy showing you what it's all about. Let's go back to that scene. Okay, so that has the ability. So if I look back in there, now you see there's a computer screen. So sometimes for demonstration purposes, you don't need to go and model the things or get a real model. Use these assets. They're great in creating clutter in your room, because often the realism is also based on how you create natural clutter in your room, you know, books lying around, pens, so forth. Okay, the next one here is that material editing window, which you can load. And once you load other features in, it gives you additional editing features. This you can load sounds, which get initiated if you're in different spaces, specifically for VR. when you enter a certain environment, you might want to hear an audio file play, etc. This is where a lot of other magic happens. We've not even touched onto this when it comes to creating the mood outside. Remember, this program is powerful for creating landscapes, trees, water. When we get here, it's to render an image out at the quality that you set in. This is to generate of your entire model a standalone executable file that somebody can open up on Windows and navigate, walk through the model on their own without a VR set. This is a web link that will give them that exe experience, but they get a link in the browser. Then you can generate full fly-through videos. That's a whole new section here that we'll get into later, but you can fly them through, animate them through, change the day and time, the view of the... So you give them a whole fly-through experience, and that's pretty much clicking buttons as you create it. Then you can create 360 panoramas. You can create them for... for Cardboard, the virtual experience, the Cardboard, Google Cardboard. So that's pretty much what you get to set up in here. And I believe this is just the beginning for Enscape. They have mastered, I think, one tool which is able to create real-time renders of a model that you put in with the least amount of effort. So as time goes on, I'll be digging into specific areas of it and sharing some ideas with you. But I am very, very excited about Enscape. I don't know why I didn't get excited earlier. I think it's just because it didn't have the feature set that exists now. But for me now, going forward, it's unless something dramatic happens, that somebody comes up with a 10 times better miracle than Enscape works with SketchUp. I'm pretty much focused on Enscape and SketchUp, and then of course on the other side, Cinema 4D and Octane are the two that I'm using. So those will be the ones that I spend more time about sharing certain things that I discover along the way. Okay, so hopefully this has given you a kind of a mix and match kind of process. There's no structure to this. It was just like kind of throwing it out there and sharing a few things that I discovered that I think would interest you along the way also. So have a fantastic day, and see you soon. God bless.